I notice the storm before it becomes a story. The mind offers its usual bargains. Fix everything now. Explain everything right now. Prove that you are fine right now. This is the lived edge for me. Calm in chaos. Sitting in the weather without becoming the weather. Then the mythic mirror slips in. A Zen Koan paradox. Something like a question that cannot be solved by speed. The point is not to win an answer. The point is to interpret the mind's demand for certainty. In that pause, I can feel what psychology might call trauma integration. My nervous system learning that activation is not an emergency by itself. It is a signal. It asks for care, not drama. If I try to outrun it, I will reach for intensity again. If I worship it, I will excuse consequences. Meaning never cancels consequence. So I check the basics like a technician. Did I sleep properly? And eat properly, and move my body, and drink water? I lower the volume of my inner narration. I keep my actions lawful and small. No big decisions when the body is lit up like this. No messages sent in heat. Over time, I started treating these moments almost like field notes, as information. What did the body say first? What pattern am I repeating here? What has actually helped me before when this happens? The Zen Koan stays with me like a hand on the back. You do not have to solve the storm. You have to stay with it responsibly until it passes. When I meet someone else's suffering up close, my old reflex is to judge, to label, to tighten my heart so I do not have to feel the weight of that pain. I can hear that reflex in my tone if I am not careful. The short, clipped, solution first response. But the lived moment in this chapter is compassion toward suffering. The strange way judgment loses its foundation when you actually stay present. I'm sitting across from a person and I notice my own body responding. I let silence do some work. The mythic mirror that helps me hold that silence is the Taoist sage. The sage does not rush to force the river into a straight line. He does not mistake control for wisdom. He moves with what is, without surrendering responsibility. Psychology might call this pro-social orientation. The nervous system shifting from threat defense into connection. Compassion is not indulgence. It is regulated attention. It is the ability to stay human while still respecting limits. If I enable someone's harmful behavior, that is not kindness. If I pretend rules do not apply, that is not love. So I practice a Taoist kind of compassion with spine. I listen, I reflect back what I am hearing, and I keep boundaries. I ask questions that bring us back to the ground. I do not make myself the hero. I bring the person toward community, toward the right people, the right systems, the right consequence. The older spiritual traditions that still make sense to me all seem to agree on this point. Service is not escape from reality. It is love expressed inside it. If we want better ways of holding suffering, then we need containers that are both compassionate and structured. Circles and sanctuaries and communities that can stay present without collapsing into sentimentality or fear. Then I return to my own thread, because compassion without self-care becomes resentment. And I do all of the boring basics that we repeat over and over again. The sage teaches me this: the way you hold another person's suffering is staying rooted yourself. And whatever hope I carry now has to look like something usable. Calmer presence, clearer boundaries, and the refusal to abandon either tenderness or consequence. There is a temptation I still have to resist, turning the descent into a legend, editing the messy parts into something impressive, saying it was all necessary. therefore harmless. But the lived anchor here is the opposite. Remembering the descent means you do not glamour it, you document it. So I sit with a notebook or a blank page on a screen and I write what I can honestly stand behind. The sensations, the patterns, the way my attention narrowed and everything caved in, the way my sleep drifted, the way I stopped hearing feedback, the way I stopped caring how I nourished my body. I do not add dates I cannot prove. I do not invent a clean timeline. I do not turn consequences into destiny. I just witness. The mythic mirror that keeps my ego from taking over is the wandering Sufi dervish. The dervish travels light. He carries less. He practices humility as movement. No throne, no audience, no need to be believed. The lesson is simple. The truth does not need decoration. In hindsight, psychology might call this narrative integration. When experiences are fragmented, the mind fills gaps with fantasy. Documentation brings reality back into focus. It also creates accountability. If I can name my early signals in plain language, I can ask for help earlier. I can tell a friend when I am starting to spin. I can tell myself this is not the time for big decisions. I notice where the body gave warnings. Then I repeat the grounding returns that actually worked until I'm so bored of saying them over and over again. The dervish reminds me that humility is a daily practice, not a personality type. I also started to see that writing itself could become part of the medicine, if I'm able to keep it honest enough. Not the ordeal as product, but the map of what helped me survive it. What to watch for, what to do sooner, what truths became clear only after the explosions and the spectacles burned off. That is the only naming of medicine I trust now. The kind you can test in daylight. I close the notebook and I wash the dish and take a shower and set an alarm and choose the next responsible act. That is how witness becomes protection. That is how the story stays true. My life got safer when I stopped looking for dramatic cures and started trusting boring structure. The lived moment is disciplined living. The thread is boring on purpose. The mythic mirror for this kind of governance is the philosopher king, not a fantasy tyrant, a symbol of responsibility. If you want to lead anything, you lead yourself first. In hindsight, psychology might call this behavioral stability, not motivation, not inspiration, not creative content, patterns that hold when mood changes. The Philosopher King principle forces one question: are my choices increasing safety or increasing risk? If my judgment thins, I say and do things that ripple outward into family, into work, into community, and into legal reality. So I keep commitments small enough to actually keep and to do them sustainably. I accept accountability from people who can tell me when I am drifting into grandiosity or collapse. The Philosopher King does not get private exceptions. Neither do I. When I feel the itch to push through, I translate it into a simpler need: rest, food, breath. I step outside for air, I do one task fully, then I stop. The thread is boring because it works. It is a leash on the part of me that wants intensity without responsibility. Every time I choose the boring thing, I strengthen the return. Healing stays cyclical. Old themes come back, but structure means they come back into a place that can hold them, instead of a life that collapses under them. Inner stability for me is not a permanent state. It is a relationship with change. Identity stays flexible. Values stay fixed. Some days I wake up clear and steady. Some days I wake up tight, reactive, and easily pulled into the old corridors. The difference is now that I do not build a throne out of the good day, and I do not build a prison out of the hard ones. I can feel the shift early, my speech speeding up, my attention scattering, my patience thinning. Instead of panicking or pretending, I return to routine like it is an anchor in the floor that grounds me no matter what storm is there. The mythic mirror here is the wise fool archetype. The fool is not stupid. He is the one who refuses the ego's costume of certainty. He tells the truth in plain clothes. He reminds the village that the sacred is still embodied, still accountable, still subject to consequence. In hindsight, psychology might call this values-based living, choosing actions that match principles, even when feelings argue. The wise fool helps me laugh gently at my own need to be exceptional and superior. He helps me remember that the goal is not to be above the labyrinth. The goal is to live in a way that does not create new harm. So I keep safeguards. If I'm not holding the thread, I know I need to return to it. If my mind wants big decisions, I delay them. If I'm spiraling out of control, I respect the law. I respect other people's boundaries. I keep my commitments realistic. The wise fool's gift is humility with movement. Keep walking, keep learning, keep repairing, not for the performance, but as a practice. And it also changes how I understand recurrence. Healing is cyclical and it's not linear. Old themes return, but they return with the possibility of new depth if I meet them properly. That is why I no longer treat a hard day as a failure. I treat it as information. Where is the thread thinner? What has slipped? And what needs tightening? And when the day ends, I dim the lights, breathe slow, and I let sleep do what it does best. Reset the story into something human again.